My name is Kate McMahon, and thank you so much for joining me today for the gallery. Very excited to introduce you to a couple of artists from the Guild of Harwich Artists. Welcome.
Thanks for having us, Kate.
Thank you. This is Sedona Summers, who's been a Guild member for quite a while. And we're also joined today by Karen Shortsleeve. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So as members of the Guild, can you talk to the audience a little bit about the Guild, the history, and the future of the Guild?
Certainly. Most of the Guild members have been around for about 40 years. I say the 40, the older part of the group has been around for about 40 years, and they established their own gallery after they came together as a guild. And they started from scratch, figuring out exactly how to do everything, and then formed their bylaws and having their monthly general meetings. And we have events all year long, and we have shows. And then different members of the board have assignments like, Sunshine Committee, new venues. We have somebody that just takes care of the financing. But everybody has a little job and participates. There's only 24 people in the gallery at any given time, but the rest of the Guild members are allowed to be in shows like at Chatham Bars Inn or Sotheby's or different local banks.
Now, the Guild is a 501c3, a nonprofit?
It is a nonprofit, and that allows us a lot of latitude to do some things like art in the park, for example. We get to rent space at different places at no charge because we're a nonprofit, and some of our funds, we take a commission from all the members of such as Art in the Park or an art show if they sell, and those monies go towards scholarship for Harwich Monomoy High School students that are going forward in art, or some other kind of we help the needy fund in Harwich for the children.
That's great.
And so there's lots of different organizations that we've touched on over the years, and we decide each year which one we're going to contribute to.
That's great. Now, are you beginning to go in a little bit more of a new direction than you have been in the past?
Yes. Thank you for bringing that up, because it's been a very new venture for us to broaden our horizons. A few years back, they opened the doors to not just the Harwich community, but it's all over Barnstable now. And we couldn't change our name because of the 501(c), so we're still called the Guild of Harwich Artists, but now the doors are open for more people, which is great. The other thing we recently did was we started with our venue of Art in the Park, which is down at Doane Park in Harwichport every Monday afternoon, or every Monday from 10 to 5. They've gotten together for about 40 years. There's usually about 10 to 17 artists there. But we've grown. Now we're bringing in about 24 artists each season.
Oh, that's great.
And not only are we showing the traditional paintings on canvas, like you see behind me, or the prints, illustrations like the ones in front of me, we're also now doing things like pottery, welding, different kinds of sculptures. We have a jewelry person.
That's great.
We have basket weaver. We have several things, and we're looking for more. We're looking for younger people with a passion about their work and able to join us and be encouraged. So Karen here is a good example of what I think is somebody that's a little younger than most of the Guild members, but is also a professional as far as her skills and her ability to win awards, if I may say so.
Thank you.
She's top notch, and I met her, was it about 3 years ago?
3 years now.
And
That's wonderful.
Karen asked me at one of her first shows how to price her work, because she was like a little insecure. And that's one of the things we do, is we help each other.
Yeah,
with little
great.
questions like, how do you price? How do you take, when you're at a show and you don't sell, how do you feel about that? Right. So there's all kinds of things to go on at a guild when you're with your peers.
Right, it's fun.
But I said to her something like, well, Karen, in my opinion, you have to raise everything about $700 a piece because you're so talented and you're wicked underpriced. So
Thank you.
Well, I think it's a great idea that you're expanding the type of art.
Yeah.
Because we do have so many talented folks here on the Cape.
Absolutely.
And it's great, too, that you now cover the entire county of Barnstable.
And a lot of people don't know that. When I talked to other local artists, they had never any idea they could join.
Yeah. Now, if we have any artists watching us today, can you tell them how they would go about actually applying?
Well, they could just go right to the website of Guild of Harwich Artists, that's plural artists on the end, .org. And right on the first page is a section where you can download the application.
That's great.
It's very easy. We have a new member now that's internet savvy, and he's updated our site very well.
helpful.
So
That's great.
yeah.
That's great.
It's nice to have those young people join us because they know how to do these things. And Erin O'Brien is the one that's doing all that for
Wonderful.
the Guild. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Before we talk a little bit about the pieces that you've brought to the studio today, let's talk a little bit about art in general and some of the things that have been learned during the pandemic. But before we start, can you talk to me a little bit about what your definition of art is?
That's a controversy that goes wide no matter who you're speaking to. I've also been to the Yarmouth Cultural Center and looked into Crafters of America to see how they define it. And I am trying to get the definition broadened from what we see in front of us right now today.
Yeah.
And what the norm is for the gallery at the Guild. So mine is anything that you use your creativity, whatever media that might be. If you're creating inspiration, hopefully maybe uplifting. Other artists don't always do uplifting art, but I prefer something that makes you feel good. So it could be, to me, poetry is art.
Yes.
Screenplay writing is art. Directing a movie could be art. But certainly sculpting, photography,
Jewelry, pottery, as you
all
mentioned.
of these things we've talked about, glass blowing. There's a number of medias that are just phenomenal. And it goes from what level is just called a craft to that becoming art.
Fine art.
Yeah.
Fine art.
Yeah.
There's a
So
difference.
it's a balancing act. And I know that the Yarmouth Cultural Center has said to me that we wish you a lot of luck in your endeavor. And we have meetings every month saying, what is the meaning of art? And it's ongoing, month to month. So we do have a committee at the Art in the Park that looks at the new people coming in, and we decide.
Yes, we decide if it's a fine craft. It's got to be aesthetically
So we
pleasing.
kind of
and-
jury them.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Now, what about artists and the pandemic? Can you tell me what it was like to be an artist during the pandemic?
It was great. What I love to do was sit and paint all day. And during the pandemic, I could do that. I could literally sit and paint first thing in the morning to the last light at night. And I just love it.
That's wonderful.
It was great for building up inventory because it can often be difficult to build up inventory for something like Art in the Park and the gallery and the different shows that we do. So for me, artistically speaking, it was fabulous. And I had the beaches to myself, wherever I'd go to take walks and take pictures of what I was going to paint. Yeah, it was ideal for me.
That's great. What else did we find out about art during the pandemic?
Well, as soon as I'm in a little retail store in Howardsport with My Little Prince, and the first thing when they allowed retail to open again was in July that year.
Yes.
So I went in, and the shop was not open very many hours and stuff. So I said, "What's going on?" And he goes, "I can't find anybody to work." And I said, "That might be the problem." So I volunteered to work. Because I said, you know what, if you're not open, I'm not selling. So let me help you. So they did. We agreed that I could come in a couple of days a week, and I started selling.
Good for you.
And I was selling like crazy. And every day I was selling. So I found out people want art.
Yeah.
And I heard things like people are putting on decks, and people are redecorating their houses, buying sofas, all these luxury comfort things. And art was one of them.
Yeah, they're working from home and they want something beautiful to look at while they're there.
Makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah.
I had my best year ever.
Wow.
the first year of COVID, and the second year in COVID, I more than doubled my sales.
Wow. That's great. Congratulations, Sedona.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
Karen's doing the
fabulous.
same.
That's great.
Karen's selling very well, too.
That's
We're
great.
doing well.
So let's talk a little bit about your art. So these two pieces behind us are Karen's pieces.
Very traditional.
Very traditional.
I taught high school art for 40 years before retiring just 3 years ago, and I taught advanced placement art history, so I have all these masters that I just adore, and they inspire me, and I go for my walks and I take my pictures and I try to use techniques of the masters, and that's what I do.
Absolutely
Thank
beautiful.
you. Thank you very much.
So you've been interested in art, fine art like this
Forever.
all of your life?
Forever. We talk about the difference between art, fine art, and craft. That's one of the first questions that I have to teach for advanced placement art history for years and years. What is the difference and what makes art art? And I don't think there's really a great answer, but I could have my students write you about 3 pages of
That's good. At least they're
answers.
being creative and thinking about the question that you asked.
Exactly.
So is your art hanging at the Guild right now?
I'm in the gallery at the Guild, yes. Okay. And I have work hanging here, and I have work hanging in the co-op, the bank in Harwich. I do a lot on Instagram and Facebook, and people reach out, which is wonderful.
That's great.
And Karen enters a lot of shows up at
I have, yeah.
Copley Place in Boston.
Yeah, I'm a member of the Copley Society of Art,
Wonderful.
which was difficult to get into, but I did, so I'm proud of that.
We're all proud of you.
Thank you. Oh yeah, I do. I enter a lot of juried shows, and so far, so good.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you. Actually, I think I just put one in. I was juried into the spring show at the Katuitt Center for the Arts, and the first day of the show, my painting was sold, so that was nice.
Yes, excellent.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
And Sedona, you have some art that you brought along as well. Can you talk to us a little bit about your two pieces here?
These pieces represent my heartwarming mementos of time spent in Cape Cod towns. So I brought 2 Dennis pieces today because we're in Dennis. But what I've done is created a series for each town. I started with the town of Harwich because that's where I'm from. And I started with 17 drawings of places that when my adult children come home to visit the Cape, it's a must-do on their list. So there was a category of a lot of little shops in Howardsport and the beaches and different places that they like to go to eat and hang out. And I did all of them. And I started selling at Art in the Park 3 years ago. And at 10 o'clock, when the place opened, I sold my first George's Pizza. I have gone on to sell 87 more George's Pizzas of a little size and about 12 of the bigger size like this. But it's a phenomenal thing. I did limited edition prints because I couldn't keep up with the demand of the originals.
Wow, that's
So
great.
after I did Harwich, I did Chatham, and I did a smaller limited edition of that. And then I did Dennis and P-Town and Eastham and Wellfleet, and just finished Orleans and Brewster this last winter.
That's great. So they can take home memories of some of their favorite Cape Cod haunts.
Exactly.
Right.
And they do. They collect them. I had some couple come in from Brewster, and I showed them the new series for Brewster. They bought all of them.
That's great.
You know, it's
Great.
just
What fun.
it's phenomenal. But the one thing that happened that I didn't realize would happen is they ended up in dorm rooms all across the country. Because when parents would send their kids off to college, they wanted them to have a little heartwarming memento.
Oh, that's neat.
So,
I love that idea.
I couldn't imagine it first.
That's
but
great.
That's what happened.
What a wonderful concept. Now, today we were supposed to be joined by Larry Folding, and unfortunately he couldn't be here with us today. And but you mentioned to me that he is one of the founders of the Guild.
Pretty much. I mean, Larry's been around, I think, since the inception, and he was one of the originals that created the gallery and all the bylaws. And when we looked for history, we looked to Larry as one of the ones that kind of understands the history of what's been happening.
Right.
And so he was a good person to have here to sort of finish off our little trio of people that represent the Guild. One of the masters, he's a master in watercolor, studied in Europe, studied all over the country.
He travels a lot, and his work is beautiful.
It is.
That's wonderful.
It is. So we really did want him here. So, and the fact that he couldn't be here, the least we could do is mention him as one of the main people we think to as the founders of the Guild.
That's wonderful.
We have another lady that I did want to mention. Her work is hanging in the conference room here today. Her name is Doris Mee. I did invite Doris to take Larry's place, but she couldn't make it either. But Doris was one of the first, what I might call a little bit of a renegade in the gallery from way back, and was accepted. She adds cutout paper, colored papers that she designs herself onto her watercolors. And they're adorable. They're fantastic.
I've seen them. They're
But because she's who she is from the beginning, she was easily accepted to do something a little different.
That's great.
She kind of paved the way.
Yeah.
And she's very nicely accepted by all.
That's wonderful.
So it will happen. We will do this.
I like it. I like the attitude.
Right.
Wonderful. Well, thank you both for being here today.
Thank you.
Lovely, lovely work. And to our viewers, we do have the gallery that's hanging here at the Media Center, and we are open. Most likely, you can find us here days Monday through Friday. We would love to have you come down and see the hanging. And we do have a reception, Sedona, but the date has
17th?
June 17th. Yes, which will be during the hours during the day, 9 to 5. So we'd love to see you here at that point as well.
1 to 5.
Oh, it's 1 to 5?
Yeah, we're still decorating at 9.
Oh, that's right.
We're decorating at 9. By 1 o'clock, we'll have the decorations up, and we'll be able to.
That's great. And let me tell you, when Sedona does come into the Media Center to hang a show, when she says decorate, they really do need that amount of time. They do a very nice job. So thank you very much for joining us today for the gallery.